everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Mike Delisio.
And several years ago, a little game called Harvest came out. Trey Chambers designed actually his first big design was a humongous worker placement game. He then designed a giant train game. And he thought, you know what, this little game I designed in between these other ones is too small. So they remade it into a bigger size. And that may be false. I don't know actually what the thought pattern was. But it is pretty funny that there was a small little game called Harvest from Tasty Minstrel in their small box line. And now this version is quite hefty and large. It's been remade and a lot of changes actually have been made to it. In this video, I'm not actually going to talk about the changes because there's a lot of things that they've done. We're going to talk about this as if it was a new game. Did you ever play the original one, Mike?
I did, yeah. I played the Tasty Minstrel, and you're right, it was a very small little box. And when I saw that Keymaster was redoing it, I was surprised at the size and the scope of the game.
So we'll take a look at how you play this worker placement game, and we'll be right back. Each player is going to choose a character, which will give them a special power that they have. Some of them come with sunrise powers that will happen in the morning. In fact, players will also pick one of these, drafting one of them. You'll have a board which is covered with forest, so you only have a certain amount of area. You start with some wheat and a coin and some workers. And one of the things that's going to happen in this game is the sunrise section, where you'll have some of these tiles to take, and you'll pick one of them. The number is going to determine what order you're going to go in for the round, but it's also going to give you various benefits, whether it's coins, the coins here are acorns, or some action that you can take as you get water and maybe a berry or fertilizer. So you're going to pick one of these, but you'll have to give your own up, which someone else can pick then at the beginning of a round. From the lowest to the highest number, players are going to place their wheelbarrows on the board. So the different spots, this one here shows an infinity symbol, which means any number of wheelbarrows can go there. But many of the spots, only one can go there. And sometimes in some of these spots, you can go there if you haven't already gone to that section. When you go to the general store, you can take one action and maybe get some money, or 2 or 3 actions. And there's different things you can do here. Some of them cost money. So you can see you can get a fertilizer, you can get some water, or get some seeds for the various different vegetables or things that you can grow here. When you fill up your water, and this should be noted here, you have fertilizer and water here, your water can't go above your bucket. So you have to find ways to make your bucket go higher so that you can fill it all the way to the top, which can be pretty handy. When you take field actions, you're going to get a certain number of actions, and the cost of the actions is going to be fertilizer or water depending on what you do. So you can see I can plant a pumpkin here for 3 fertilizer. I can tend a pumpkin for 3 water. And then when I harvest the pumpkin, I'm going to get 6 victory points. As you plant these things, it's a little bit of a game and how you can put them out there. And some of them are going to be harder to fit than others, like this pumpkin here. And if you want to plant blueberries, they actually come in a little blueberry patch where they're going to grow on top of that. One of the things you're going to need to do is you're going to have to eventually clear land so that you can fit more spots into your farm. But one thing also to note is as you are clearing this land, as you open these spots up for the board, you're also going to be able to build buildings, which will give you special abilities, but they're also going to take up room. So to recap here, when you plant, you're going to plant a seed. When you tend, you can tend as many plants as you want, but they have to go next to each other, and you have to pay the water cost. And when you harvest, you have to harvest as much stuff as you possibly can, and you're going to get money for each different crop type that you harvest. Even though you start with wheat, it's not particularly many victory points, but pumpkins take up more space in the garden. In the workshop, you're going to clear land. That's one of the actions you can take, which will bring out more buildings. You also get to roll a die whenever you clear land, which can give you some sort of bonus like fertilizer, things like that. It's something you found on the land. And then you can also build these buildings. They're going to be going down in price every round, so they'll get a little cheaper. Some will give you immediate benefits, some will give you endgame victory score, and some will give you permanent abilities, and you have to decide if they're worth putting in your town or not. The farmer's market is going to have different tiles put on each round, and these are just kind of combinations of the different actions. Like this one here raises your bucket, but also gives you that. And this one gives you 2 fertilizer and a pumpkin seed. And some of them have costs and some don't. And then the trading post, another spot you can go to, it's just a spot where you can turn different things into other things if you need them. This is going to go through for 4 rounds. You're going to be going through this for 4 rounds. At the end of the game, you'll get some extra points for crops you haven't harvested. Blueberry patches give you an extra 2 points. Buildings will give you points, and some will give you even more beyond that. And whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, well, this is a Keymaster game, and Keymaster games tend to be top-notch, and this is no exception. I have the Super Deluxe version of this, which is actually a little weird in the fact that they give you these trays to hold all the pieces, and you can hold the deluxe pieces and the non-deluxe pieces. I don't know why you would, but you can. But whether you get the deluxe or the non-deluxe, I think everything in here, Keymaster just does really top-notch production, and this is pretty fantastic. From the rulebook to the pieces, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is a lovely production. I've only played actually on the retail edition, and that's nothing to slouch at. It's very, very nice, well put together. I also like the art direction with this. It really is charming. Now, you could say, look, it's not a huge deal anymore to be doing anthropomorphic animals, but I'm not even really specifically talking about the characters, although they're nice. I just like the general aesthetic for the game. It has this kind of almost Andy Griffith kind of feel to it, and I really think it is pleasant. It evokes kind of this nice, kind of old-time Americana look.
Now, that being said, this is a game that's a worker placement game. We call it games where you place a worker out and take some actions. And this has a lot of similarities to many of those games. It's about farming and clearing out the forest and building things. But I gotta say, I think that it's not particularly intuitive off the bat, at least on how to do it well. You can figure out what to do. There's a lot of different actions. But the actions act differently. Like one action is plant something. The other one is harvest everything you've done. Then there's special actions, which are kind of like your regular actions, but slightly better. And I found that when teaching this and playing this with people, that this is kind of a gamer game, really. That's almost masquerading as a my first worker placement when it's not.
Yeah, that's a very, very true from my perspective as well. You know, I talked about that beautiful art, and you're right. It's not a busy board. It's not a complicated looking game. When you see it, everything looks to be very kind of, like you said, kind of my first type of game. And it is really not that because like you said, the 3 main things you're doing are planting, tending, and harvesting. Well, it's, okay, well, you're doing this, and you plant, and then you tend them, and then you harvest them, and then you get the points. But it's not that simple, right? It's a little unintuitive, as you said, and then you throw in these buildings, which can really kind of change those things. And then you put in player powers, which can change things. And then you put in the actions on the board, which, like you said, are like kind of boosted up versions of the actions. And it's not that simple. It's not that easy to teach for the first time, as much as you expect it would be, as much as I expected it would be. And this is from someone that had played the original version. So I think it is important for you to point that out, Tom, because I agree. It looks much more straightforward than it feels to me playing it.
And that's important because a few things like, the pumpkins are the best, obviously, but they also take up more space and aren't as efficient as maybe the berries. But the big thing that I've noticed in this game that you need to keep an eye on is the fact that it can just end. It's not a particularly long game, and it ends and you go, I wasn't prepared, and I end it poorly. This is a game you kind of got to build up and be ready to end, to play with everyone else, be ready to harvest, just because that final turn for some people, if you're not sure you're doing, can be a little anticlimactic.
Yes, this is what I would, put in the line of what are called efficiency type games, which means that every turn that you take, you have to get as much out of it as you possibly can, because some of these actions will let you do a number of things on that one action. So, like when you said harvest, you're going to harvest everything that you can, but you have to make sure that you have built up the resources to be able to do that. You have to plan for these things. And so I agree that if you are in a position where you've got all these crops on your field in front of you and you're not in a position to take advantage of harvesting them when the game ends, it'll feel terribly unsatisfying. So in an efficiency game like this, you do have to be prepared for those types of things to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in here. I want to point out a couple things I really like. I'm a big fan of the turn order actions. I like any kind of game where you get to go earlier but get a worse action. And the combos and mix with the player powers keeps this game from being something that gets boring because, like Mike said, there's only a few actions. But this game manages to really take a few things and do a lot with them.
My favorite aspect of the game is that turn order aspect. I'm with you, not just with turn order, but I like when many things are player driven, right? There's not a set number of rounds. There's not a set turn order. There's, players can impact those things. And so I definitely like that here. And that's where I find most of the kind of agonizing decisions come. You can have some difficulty when you're like, okay, well, how do I place this crop? Do I want to place this crop? There's definitely decisions to be made there. But to me, where I feel the most impactful or I feel the most angst is about those turn order decisions. And so that's a positive, I think, for the game.
Yeah, for me overall, the game is an enjoyable one that's fun to play. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. And you wonder why it might not be higher? Because I like I said, sometimes the game to me doesn't have as satisfying of a finish as I want it to have, depending on where I'm at any given point. But there's so much about it that I do enjoy, and I like the fact that every game's going to feel different, from the different buildings that are out there to the different crops I decide to build. And it also plays very quickly. It says 30 to 70 minutes on here, so figure it's closer to 45 minutes to an hour. And that's pretty good for this weight of game. Add that to some production values, and this is a nice worker-style placement game that has a good, strong theme that holds through, like it's farming, and it makes sense what you're doing. Everything you do makes perfect sense, and it does a lot of things that I enjoy, and it comes together in a really nicely done package.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower than you on this, Tom. It's not a game I dislike by any means. It also has a nice solo mode, too, that I'll mention because a lot of times people want me to mention that. But I'm coming with a 6, and I think it's because, one, it's not as intuitive and as smooth as I feel like it should be. The game is one that presents itself differently than I think it feels when you're playing it. And I know some of that is kind of just like subjective opinion or objective. I always get those mixed up, subjective and objective, Tom. I'm just throwing that out there. But it's not as satisfying a flow to me as I feel like it should be. It's beautiful to look at. It is a nice production. There is a good worker placement game in here. I just would not be going towards this over others in this weight class, so to speak. And so I think it suffers a bit from that. It is an older game. And I think it's showing a little bit of its age. It's not super old, but I just feel like it's not quite up to the par of some of the games that I've been playing recently, utilizing worker placement and things along those lines. So a 6 for me, but not a bad game.
Yeah, and I actually understand that because, again, some people I played it with had those same kind of feelings. And I think an argument could be made it didn't need to be large and deluxeified. And it was kind of happy being a game in the corner and, this quirky little game. I don't know. But either way, it's definitely one that I would say, even though I like it more than Mike, I would definitely recommend you try it before buying it. Just because this is not going to be for everyone. It just has a different, odd, funky flow to it. So, that's it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
And you've been watching the Dice Tower. Woo! everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.